You are not going to believe the story I have for you today. It's about a fence. Yeah, you heard me right, a fence, but not just any fence. This one's special. And the twist, it involves a classic HOA Karen, her entitled son, a tow truck driver, and a little bit of sweet, sweet revenge. It all started on a perfectly normal afternoon. I had just spent a small fortune on a beautiful brand new vinyl fence for my backyard. It was my pride and joy, crisp, white, and perfectly installed. I stood there at the window admiring my handiwork when disaster struck. I saw Kevin, my neighbor's son, trying to park his ridiculously oversized truck into their driveway. He was terrible at it. I'm talking about the kind of bad where you'd be embarrassed for him if you weren't so damn angry. He revved the engine, cranked the wheel, and then bam, he slammed right into my brand new pristine fence. I heard the sickening crunch from inside the house. A whole panel of the fence cracked and was knocked right off its post. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. I ran outside already feeling that familiar surge of blood rush to my face. Kevin just sat there staring at the damage, not even making an effort to get out of his truck. Before I could even say a word, his mother, the infamous HOA Karen of our neighborhood, stormed out of her house. Now let me paint you a picture of Karen. Tall, blonde, with a posture that could only be described as, I own this neighborhood. She didn't even acknowledge me. She went straight to the fence, poking at the broken panel like it was some piece of garbage she had just found on her lawn. "What is this cheap junk?" she screeched. I was floored. I mean, seriously, cheap junk, cheap junk. Your son just crashed into my fence. I said, trying to keep my cool, but I could feel my patience slipping. Karen turned around slowly, hands on her hips like she was about to deliver the final blow. "Well, if your fence wasn't built so poorly, this wouldn't have happened. It's practically on our property line anyway," she spat. I couldn't believe my ears. I pointed to the tire tracks in my yard, which were leading directly from his truck to the point of impact. "He hit my fence. It's brand new. He needs to pay for the repairs." Kevin finally got out of the truck, looking bored. He shrugged like it was no big deal and said, "It was an accident." Karen, however, wasn't done. She launched into a tirade about how I was always causing problems, how my fence was an eyesore, which was ironic seeing as she had approved the plans herself as part of the HOA board. She was making such a scene that other neighbors started peeking out their windows to see what the fuss was about. That was it for me. I'd had enough. "Fine, I'm calling the police to file a report," I said, keeping my voice steady. Her face went pale. Suddenly her tune changed. "Oh, there's no need for that. It's just a little scratch. We can handle this ourselves." But I wasn't having any of it. I called the police. An officer showed up soon after, and the entire dynamic shifted. Karen tried to put on her sweet concerned neighbor act. "Oh, officer, it's just a silly misunderstanding," she said with this sugary voice that made my skin crawl. "My boy just barely tapped it." The officer looked at the busted panel, then at the tire tracks, then back at Kevin's truck. He wasn't buying it. He took our statements, but Karen kept interrupting, trying to downplay the whole thing. Now, here's where things took a turn. The officer, while writing up the report, turned to us and asked, "Who's going to cover the damages?" Karen, still trying to save face, said, "Well, we'll take care of it, of course." But then she added a little jab. "Though it seems a bit excessive to get insurance involved for such a flimsy fence." The officer needed a clear statement for his report. So he turned to me. "Sir, for the purposes of this report, are you agreeing to handle payment for the repairs?" I knew this was just for the paperwork, a formality, but I had an idea, a deliciously petty idea. I looked the officer in the eye with Karen and Kevin watching and said, "Yes, officer, for now I will take care of the payment." Karen's face lit up with a smug, triumphant grin. She thought she had won. She thought I was just some pushover who would eat the cost. She patted Kevin on the back and they started walking back to their house, whispering and laughing. The officer finished up the report, handed me a copy, and left. They thought it was over, but I was just getting started. As soon as the police car was out of sight, I pulled out my phone. From where I was standing, I had a perfect view of Kevin's truck, and I noticed something wonderful. Kevin had parked his truck directly in front of a fire hydrant, a big, bright red fire hydrant with a clearly marked no parking zone. In our HOA parking, in a fire lane, was a huge violation, a towable offense. And who was the head of the HOA committee that enforced these rules with an iron fist? You guessed it, my dear neighbor, Karen. I took a picture, then another. I documented the violation from every angle. Then I made a second phone call, not to the HOA, but to the city's parking enforcement reporting an illegally parked vehicle blocking a fire hydrant. They were very interested. "We'll dispatch a tow truck immediately," they said. I went back inside, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat by the window waiting for the show. It didn't take long. Less than 15 minutes later, a massive tow truck rumbled down our quiet street and pulled up right behind Kevin's monster truck. The driver got out, sized up the situation, and got to work with impressive efficiency. He hooked up the truck, and just as he was about to lift it, Karen and Kevin came running out of their house. Karen was screaming, "What are you doing? That's my son's car. You can't take it." The tow truck driver just pointed to the fire hydrant and the no parking sign. He wasn't fazed at all. Kevin was pleading, "Please, man, I was only there for a little bit." But it was too late, buddy. Karen turned her fury on me. I was standing on my porch sipping my coffee, enjoying the beautiful afternoon. "You did this!" she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me. "This is retaliation." I just took another sip of my coffee and said calmly, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I just saw a truck parked illegally and thought of public safety." "Isn't that what you always tell us at the HOA meetings, Karen, safety first?" The look on her face was priceless, a mixture of pure rage and helpless defeat. She knew I had her. I used her own rules, her obsessive enforcement against her. The tow truck driver gave me a little nod and a smile as he drove away with Kevin's truck trailing behind. The cost to get his truck back from the impound lot plus the ticket way more than the cost to fix my fence. The next day, a very humbled-looking Karen knocked on my door. She didn't make eye contact. She just handed me a check for the full amount of the fence repair down to the penny. She mumbled a quick sorry and scurried away. The best part, her son has parked perfectly in their driveway ever since. Sometimes you don't have to get mad. You just have to get creative and remember the rules, especially when the person trying to wrong you is the one who wrote them. It's funny, isn't it, how the tables can turn when you use someone's own system against them. So here's the question. Is it always worth it to fight back? Or is there a better way to handle these situations without sinking to their level? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to share your own stories with me.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.